right, my friends, welcome back. This is going to be part 27 of my uh, presentation on the flood and Noah's Ark. And we're going to continue on with coal, talking about coal. And this is going to be in a block that, a pretty large block that I'm going to be getting into on fossil graveyards. And so before we get into talking about fossil graveyards, I'm going to be going through several different types of fossils. What is a fossil? And while we're going through this, I may rabbit trail on those types of fossils, and so just giving you some insights on them, showing you pictures and stuff like that. And so it's going to be quite a learning experience to see some of this stuff, and so some of the stuff you may not even have heard of before. And so I know I learned a ton of stuff, putting this thing together. And but at any rate, if you'll notice on the screen here, I kind of stopped in the middle of giving you the notes on coal. And so I'm going to, after this one picture, this one slide here, I'm going to be showing you some photographs, and and we're going to kind of go over some of these notes again, just highlighting just certain areas and showing you some pictures that will give you a little bit better insight on this, and a little visualization to help to aid in learning about it. But it says here that peat, P-E-A-T, peat is defined as an unconsolidated deposit of semi-carbonized plant remains in a water-saturated environment, such as a bog. About 3% of the surface of the continents, and is common in North Hemisphere polar latitudes and the tropics of Southeast Asia. Let's see. In Indonesia and Malaysia, there are peat swamps that are about 50 feet thick. The compression rate of peat to coal is said to be about 10 to 1, which means the thickest peat known today were buried, and compressed. It would yield a coal seam about 5 feet thick. For thick coal seams, peat must accumulate to well over 330 feet deep. And for the thickest coal, 2,600 feet, almost almost a half a mile, I should say. Next, it must be buried under several miles of sediments to compress and heat it. Then erosion must erode away those overlying sediments. The peat swamp theory to explain coal has been popular for nearly 200 years. The United States Geological Survey says peat is the precursor to coal. This is not observational, for peat does not form coal today. Peat bogs and coal beds contain bits of wood, but they have many other differences. Peat bogs are riddled with roots. Coal seams show none. Peat bogs don't extend across state-size areas like coal seams. The upper surfaces of peat bogs have little rises and pits, but coal seams have razor-sharp upper boundaries. And so, now this is a picture of a coal seam. Now check it out. It's just straight. It's sharp. But that right there is a coal seam. When they talk about a coal seam, that's what they're talking about. And so they don't always go after all these coal seams, from what I understand, because, look at all that overburden that you're going to have to get to that coal seam. Is it even worth it? If you're not going to be able to get a lot of coal, it's not worth going through all that effort to get that. So, they're after the big, huge coal seams. And so, but that right there is a coal seam, is what you're looking at. And this right here is a coal mine in the Powder River Basin of Wyoming. Take a look at that. And you can see the dump trucks. Now, those dump trucks down there are gigantic. They're massive, massive machines. So that'll give you a little idea of that area right there. So that is a huge, gigantic coal seam that it was worthwhile getting a hold of. And this right here is another picture, and you can, take a look at that. You can see that black coal seam that they're in there digging that out. Now, these are two vertical trees up to 13 feet tall from a coal mine of Sutton, Alaska. An upside down petrified tree from a large coal seam in Australia. Upside down, guys, upside down. So that shows you that something happened when this tree was buried. Now, going back through the notes that we previously had covered, just notice the highlighted area, this yellow area. Boulders are often found in coal beds all over the world. One explanation is that the boulders were dropped from the roots of floating vegetation or stuck in the roots from the coal. Now, if you notice on this next slide here, if you'll notice where all of the arrows are going, now what you're looking at is a root ball of a tree. You're looking underneath the tree is falling down, but if you'll notice that all the rocks / boulders in and around the roots, they're all trapped up underneath those roots. Now next here, notice the highlighted area I got in yellow. Some coal seams in the United States are made almost entirely of tree bark. This would mimic the catastrophe at Mount St. Helens, where floating log mats of trees rubbing up against each other would cause the bark to sink to the bottom and causing layers of bark. And so again, this is a picture of those trees from 2012 from Mount St. Helen when it blew its top back in 1980 when it erupted. And again, these trees back in 2012 were still there. And you can imagine, one, that there could be on some of these root balls, those boulders. So you can imagine many of these trees having boulders or rocks lodged up in the roots of these trees. And then you've got the bark being rubbed off these trees. Like all these trees here, there's no bark on them. They've been rubbing up against each other, just peeling that bark off of them. And so all of those boulders and that tree bark goes to the bottom, as you're seeing here. And so this right here is the tree bark and limbs and stuff like that, pieces of the tree. They're all going down there, and they're going to make huge sediments of tree bark. And then you put in some of those boulders that would fall off of the roots. And then you get what they have found. Coal seams with boulders in them, or coal seams that is entirely made up of bark. It makes perfectly good sense. It would match a catastrophic flood event, what you would see. Now, dinosaur tracks have been found at the top of some of the coal seams. Get that? They appear as upside down sandstone cast in the ceilings of excavated coal mines, where the sediment has filled the footprint and depression. Tracks are found on top of the coal in Scotland and other parts of Europe, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and southeast Queensland, Australia. De Courton stated, the overhead surface can be decorated with hundreds of footprints that hang precariously from the ceiling. The footprints range up to nearly 3 feet across, made by very large duck-billed dinosaurs, and up to 56 feet long, weighing around 18 tons. The tracks are almost 2 feet deep. Some are much shallower. Some of the larger tracks only penetrate 3.5 to 6 inches deep, allowing the plant material, showing that the plant material was very dense. It was dense. And so if you'll notice the pictures that I have here, and I've got some more to kind of give you a visualization on what could have happened when you're talking about the dinosaur tracks in these coal mines. But if you'll notice, you've got sedimentary layers up here. The dinosaurs are just making their way up there, trying to find some high level ground. And you've got that plant material in that brown area. That's all the plant material. Well, then you get the dinosaurs in picture B walking on this plant material, making those tracks. And now here you go. You got another wave coming in C, and those tracks are being filled in by sediments being brought in from the next wave or action of the water of the flood. And what you get is this right here is a dinosaur footprint from the ceiling of a Colorado coal mine. And so check that out, guys. Now, this is pretty key here, and I'm going to show you why at the end of all these little pictures right here. But these dinosaur footprints should not be in this coal. They shouldn't be here. And so, but at any rate, here's another one here. Now, that notebook is about 6 inches. 6 inches. And so I'm going to say, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be 6 inches wide or 6 inches long. But at any rate, it said the notebook was about 6 inches. A large duck-billed dinosaur track found in the roof of a coal mine from the College of Eastern Utah Prehistoric Museum, Price, Utah. And now, when you talk about dinosaur footprints, how in the world would that come about? So we got our pictures here. If you notice, the dinosaurs are walking around on the high level of ground they were able to get on, trying to stay away from the water. And while they're up there, biological processes are still going to be working on these animals. They're going to feel hunger, thirst. They may have to lay eggs. But if you'll notice up there, a couple of these dinosaurs, one, you got footprints. Let's just say that T-Rex up there, you got some footprints underneath him that he made, and then you got the Brachiosaur made some footprints, and also the Hadrosaur could have laid some eggs. And so you see all that up there. And now the next one, you got the wave action, brought in some new sediments, and those footprints have now been covered by new sediments. And then you got that eggs. The eggs have been now covered. And so now let's go back to the first picture, A. If you'll notice over to the far left there, you got a dinosaur floating in water. Now T-Rex is hungry. So in C here, picture C here, he's eating on that dinosaur. And so he's hungry. He's going to eat anything. Now, before the flood, everything was ate vegetation, ate plants. And so it wasn't until after the flood that God said they could eat meat. And so, but again, when you're hungry, you're going to eat just about anything. And I've got pictures of fossils of dinosaurs that had 3 birds inside of them. And so they're going to eat. When they get hungry, they'll eat just about anything. And so now this next picture, you'll see that those tracks have been buried. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is the dinosaur tracks. So these tracks are buried, and they've been fossilized and preserved. And then you got Mr. Coal Miner here. He's underneath there working his day away, and he's making his way to these tracks. Now, he doesn't know those tracks are up there, so he's continually digging. They're after that coal. So after that coal, he's continually digging, and then up, wouldn't you know it, as he's wiping the sweat off his brow and taking the helmet off his head, the light shines up, and there are those tracks sitting right above him. And lo and behold, there you go. You got the tracks sitting above him, and that is what they see. They see these tracks protruding. And now you say, okay, you said that the dinosaur tracks should not be in coal mines. That's because they give the coal mines and the coal seams a timeline from the Carboniferous period. Now, from the time of the dinosaurs, that's 100 million year gap. So there should not be dinosaur tracks in the coal seams. They shouldn't be there. And so 100 million year gap because dinosaurs didn't start showing up until the Triassic period. And so there's no way you're going to get the dinosaurs making stepping in that nice soft coal seams on that plant material. It's not going to happen because by evolutionary uniformitarian thinking, there's a 100 million year gap between the two. And so, but at any rate, we'll stop right there. I think this is a good place to stop. And when we continue on, we're going to continue on with, I'm looking on my slides. We're going to talk about oil. We're going to talk about oil and some really fascinating things about oil maybe you weren't aware of. And so, but you guys take care. This is Christmas Day when I'm posting this. So I do wish everybody a Merry Christmas and hope you have some great time and fellowship with your family. But I hope that you're learning something. And please take time to check out my previous videos, because if you're jumping into these videos, it's like jumping into a book without reading the beginning of it. And so it's not going to make any sense to you, because sometimes I pick up where I left off on a previous video. And so, like I said, and we're going to have, there's still scores of more videos to come. And so we're going to have a lot of them. But again, I'm trying to keep these videos at about 10 to 15 minutes apiece. So, grab you a cup of coffee. By the time you enjoy a cup of coffee, you can learn you something real neat. And but I love you. You guys take care, and I hope the Lord bless you real good. Bye-bye.